Hi, this is Deborah Danielson with the Rebel Podcast. Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited today to talk about this topic of emotional purchases, emotional buying. Truth is, statistics show and neuroscience shows that we make more purchases based upon emotions and our state of mind than we do rational purchasing decisions. What is a rational purchasing decision? Well, at its simplest level, you could think of a rational purchasing decision like, I need a new car. So I go to the computer or I go to the internet and I plug in the different varieties of cars that meet my needs. So maybe I need something with low miles or no miles. And then I'm looking for something that gets great gas mileage and is efficient and, inexpensive to operate. Maybe I need an economy car. So there's various ways and things and all of that information to compare and then to do a price comparison. That would be a rational decision because at the end of looking at all this information, you choose the best option that says, I can afford this, I can maintain this, or it meets all of the things that I need for safety, mileage, and maybe you're going to lease it. So maybe it's very attractive leasing terms, but it meets your monthly budget. So that would be what most people try to say, that they make a rational purchasing decision. For a long time, it has been kind of, very secretively suggested that, or you're made to feel not quite up to snuff if you're making an emotional decision for purchasing. And hey, there's all kinds of impulse buying. That's why you have all those little things at the rack, at the checkout, at the grocery store, a quick snack, a quick drink, magazines, new articles, the latest gossip. So all of those things show up in key places so that we can make a snap decision. And how many of you, if you were really honest, could say, I've made many snap decisions on emotional purchases? I have, I have to come clean. I gotta tell you, the other day, this is what I did. Or how many of you have had friends talk to you about an emotional decision? Well, today we're going to talk about emotional decisions and why we make them. And then I'm going to give you a real life example. Many of you know that I do historic home restoration. I also have built homes and I love decorating and I like repurposing and reusing things. And by the way, that's an emotional purchase decision, is if you're looking to buy something that is more rare, sought after, limited quantities. A lot of people do that. We call them collectors. We could call them enthusiasts. But there's auctions and then there's times and places where you can buy these rare things, and people often get very carried away at those things. Also, we do this in relationships. That's a very emotional decision. And so let's just kind of peel back the onion a little bit today, so to speak. Let's try to figure out some of the characteristics of people. What kind of research has been done, and how are these things used to guide our behavior and our purchasing decisions? What happens on social media? Stay tuned for more. So now let's get back to the new science of customer emotions. This is an article in Harvard Business Review that you can take a look at, which I find extremely fascinating. And it is The New Science of Customer Emotions, A Better Way to Drive Growth and Profitability by Scott Magid's, Alan Zorfus, and Daniel Limon. So there's a handy chart in here of the high impact motivators, the 10 most impactful, significant significant things that affect a customer's decision making. So, the number one thing is people like to stand out from the crowd. They like to feel that they're important, that they've got maybe some flair or style or class that other people would like to emulate. So they want to stand out from the crowd. They have confidence in the future, so they might want to make a big purchase because they feel business is going good, their job is great, the economy's good. So they'll go ahead and make a bigger commitment. They enjoy a sense of well-being. They feel like things are generally going well. Their family life is stable. They're good, environment where they live and work. They feel a sense of freedom. They can act independently without any obligations or restrictions limiting them. They also feel a sense of thrill. Now, this is really kind of interesting because some people, when they buy something on an emotional whim, they might be trying to get over an argument. They might be trying to comfort themselves, like make a comfort purchase. They also might want to be on the edge. They might want to do something that they consider daring or they consider a little risque of a purchase. Another one is feeling a sense of belonging. They might really want to, they might want to go to an upper class neighborhood, buy their first home over there, because now they have made it, but now they have to show it. So now they're going to move into that gated community, even though the community they've been living in has been just fine, no problem, but now they want a sense of belonging. Maybe they want to protect the environment. That's a very real thing anymore. People do want to make sure that the environment is not abused, that the planet is left in good shape for the next generation or our own children. Now, here comes the one I think is pertinent to what's going to be our subject for today. Be the person I want to be. Now, there are people who have a definite sense of, I want to do improvements to myself. I want to live up to my ideal of my real self-image. So, for example, myself, I go in to get a car. Well, I don't want just a regular car, and if I show up at a dealership, invariably they want to sell me an SUV. No, I don't want an SUV. I want a convertible. Why? Because I'm at the age where I want to go out, I want to have fun, I want to pop the top, and I want to enjoy myself. But there's also people who will make decisions to buy something just because they feel socially they need to look more important, or they need to stand out, or they realize the value of something is greater than what they think they're going to have to pay for it. But they feel like if they buy it and they get a deal on it, they may actually be the person they want to become. So it's a lot tied up with how they identify themselves. Feel secure. They want to believe that what they have today will be there tomorrow, and they can pursue their goals and dreams without worry. I think most of us would be in that category, and succeed in life. They want to prove to their family, to their friends, but mostly to their self, what their worth is, and their financial and socioeconomic measurements are proving that. So those are the 10 factors that this study had focused on. It's a very good article. I highly recommend it. But I'm going to use this information as you listen to this podcast. I would also encourage you to go over to YouTube, and where on Spotify you can visually watch the example I'm going to give you. So I love real estate. I love doing historic home restoration, preservation, and this whole example is going to be about that and how people who make emotional decisions may financially regret that one day. So, I've known this friend of mine for over 20 years, and he recently passed away. He had cancer, and he also lived in a beautiful Victorian house. He didn't live far from me. He took the best care he could of the house. But unfortunately, as he grew more ill, they took parts of the house, light fixtures, beautiful furniture, things of that nature, and they started removing them from the house to pay some of his hospital bills, etc. So the house went up for sale. It literally had not one stitch of furniture in it. It only had a few lights in it, but the main structure of the house is there, and the beautiful stained glass windows, the beautiful woodwork, and really what's even more impressive, some of the original carpeting from the late 1800s is still in the house. It's in excellent condition. But unless somebody told you how old the carpeting was, you would not even believe that it's not a recent carpet because of the colors, the pinks and the grays and the off-whites, but also the patterns are so beautiful. So when the house came on the market, and real estate, the main tenet of real estate is location, location, location. So what you want to do is make sure that you try to buy, generally speaking, if you're an investor or if you want to make a smart purchase of a home that you're going to live in, you want to look for the following. Try to get the cheapest house on the block, because even if you have to do home improvement to it, which is 99% of the time, you won't most likely go over the top end of what the houses in your area are selling for. Also look at the crime in the area. Make sure you're in a low crime area. Look at the traffic. Are you on a very busy freeway? Are you on a very busy intersection? Are you in a quiet cul-de-sac? Most people prefer quiet, and most people are willing to pay more money for that. Another thing you want to look at is parking, space, and generally, what's the look and feel of the area? Is it luxury? Is it middle class? Or is it kind of scary? And is it kind of crime-ridden? So you want to take a look at all of these factors. But the main thing you want to look at is the house you're interested in. Number one, are you going to live in it? Number two, do you want to flip it? Number three, do you want to Airbnb the thing? Or number four, do you have some other commercial kind of venture that you want to do with this property? Maybe you want to make it into a boutique, a spa, a destination. It just depends on how that property, given all of the other factors of location, 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 fit together for your business plan. So my friend's house went up for sale, and recently, as of 4 months ago, sold. It didn't sell like a lot of houses within a couple of days because there came a situation where it had already been sold to a young family. And we see this quite often around here, where you have a young family that has a lot of children, and the couple wants the biggest house they can get so they can get a bedroom for each child, plenty of room for the dinner table, you know, plenty of room to have friends over, etc. Well, unfortunately, the big Victorian houses around here go very cheaply. And why do I say that? It's unfortunate because they harbor so many expensive repairs. People do not take the time to consider asbestos abatement, which is horrifically expensive, plumbing, like entire plumbing stacks, sewer stacks, water pipes need to be totally redone, very expensive. Electrical, plumbing, HVAC, everything in these houses needs updating. That's why they're cheap. That's why you can get such a deal on them. And I use that the deal word almost in a sarcastic way, because we know that there's no deal, there's no Santa Claus, because if it was a deal, it wouldn't be that cheap. So the house was under contract, the couple was waiting for their bank, and then another person came in and offered more money. So the house ended up selling for a little over $260,000. It's roughly a 10,000 square foot house. It has 4 levels, a full basement, a full first floor, a full second floor, and a 3rd floor above the ground, which is a beautiful ballroom, but flexible to be really a big bonus room of some sort. So now the house is sold. I met the person who bought the house, and the very first thing I wanted to know was, how did you find this house? Because you don't live here. And how did you hear about it? Well, a friend had told him about it and suggested he go to TikTok and take a look. He immediately decided, after watching a 45-second TikTok, that he wanted to buy the house, that he was going to be relentless in his pursuit of buying the house, and it didn't matter that this other couple with all these kids already was working with the bank, and they had already really basically agreed to sell the house, to buy the house and sell it to them. So at the end of the day, this person from outside of the state bought it. And the next part of the video that you're going to see is you're going to see the condition of the neighborhood. And the condition of the neighborhood is there's slum and blight going on in the neighborhood. They're trying to regentrify, which, I'm all about that, because that's what I've done in my neighborhood for the last 30 years. So I'm all about that. But I'm also about being smart about how that regentrification goes, how long it takes, and the kind of money it takes. So when you look at the video, we're going to walk you through the house, take you on a tour. The neighborhood is very rough, has a lot of crime, has a lot of apartments, some of which unfortunately put people in a not favorable place for ingress or egress. Like if there was a fire that's overcrowded and there's not, adequate facilities. But some of these houses too were never meant to have 22 people staying in them. And so these large old Victorian homes become overcrowded. And where are you going to put 22 cars for one house? Where is the parking? So now you kind of see the problem. But this man bought this house 12 states away on a 45-second TikTok because he fell in love with it. When he saw the eye candy, when he saw those things that connected up in his brain that said, look, this is a mansion. This has amazing woodwork. It has beautiful stained glass. It punched all of his buttons. So I'm going to let you see the rest of the video. We're going to take you on a tour and we're going to show it to you. And then I'll come back around at the end and we can and so it goes. Hey, I want you to come in through all of this beautiful weeds and debris and welcome to our yard. You can see the sidewalk splits off to a charming front porch or side porch entry, or go clear around the back. But you'll see a lot of the Victorian plants still here. This is what's left of the old Victorian lilac bushes. They used to grow huge, so obviously that needs to be totally replaced and cut back. And you'll also see that the lawn has really gone all natural. Original garage. The carriage house doors are missing, but nevertheless they have very good appropriate doors on them. You'll notice the window treatments are pretty much all rotted and neglected. You'll see the built-in gutters are still in the house, and you'll see all the beautiful detail. Travis and I, Waylon, when we were all in the house, Travis noticed that the bats are living right up, going in the house, probably where that gutter's broken right there. And in typical Victorian fashion, you have your little lattice work underneath the porch. Also use it for ventilation and keeping, a healthy environment. This house has a full, huge basement. Very nice sized windows that could probably meet ingress egress requirements if you wanted to put something in the basement. What kind of space can you put down there, you say? Well, number one, let's have a kick-ass wine cellar. Number two, you could also have an office down there. So if you're a creative person and you want more quiet, the basement in these Victorian houses with walls that are obviously several feet thick offer very good soundproofing.
So my car was parked in the driveway, back hatch open.
Yeah.
I was getting some dishes out that I had bought for the house, some antique dishes. And two pit bulls from across the street came running at me. I froze because I know I'm not going to fight two pit bulls off. And I thought maybe they were just nice, they're jumping on me. And then one grabbed my arm and started chewing it up. And I said to the guy, come get your pit bulls, they're biting me. And he just ignored me.
Oh my God, so where are you on your rabies shots?
Friday will be my 5th and last one.
Oh God, I always have heard nightmare stories about the pain and whatnot. Is that all true?
Yes, painful. The first one, especially because they have to put the needle right in the
front doors are probably around 10 foot tall, and they look like they're white quarter sawn oak. You'll notice the floor has a walnut inlay, and it looks like it's white quarter sawn oak. Here's what the doors look like in the front of the house, right up to the ceiling there. These are sandwich glass windows, and they're so exquisite. And you'll notice that we still have original switches in the house. And there's a picture rail right there. So if you wanted to hang a picture there, you could. The moldings are massive. That's where the ceiling light goes there. You notice there's a gas pipe coming out and then electrical, so it's had both. So this is what we call our front entry foyer. And you can see we got the ladder up against there. Beautiful paneling. And the front of the door, exquisitely carved. Every detail attended to. It's just a little hard to film these windows, but I wanted you to get a sense of the regal majesty. And who wouldn't fall in love with this beautiful, beautiful artistic work? I mean, you'd have to be really silly not to love all of this. Loving all these beautiful original fireplaces in the house. And all the original carpeting is still in the house and looks like new.
Right.
You know, all of this is super easily just.
Do we? You put the fire over this? You put the stuff over because some of
you
this
put
stuff
it right over it.
But this is not.
Well, I mean, you have to, you know.
Some of the loose areas you take out.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's kind of like, you know, when you have like the ceiling up there. You know, you're gonna have to take out more than just what's bubbling.
Right.
To fix it.
Yeah.
So it's like the same concept. It's not.
But we want to work
difficult.
smart and save money.
Exactly.
I have to tell you, this place is just—it's stunning.
Exquisite.
And when you told me the other day how you came to buy this house,
It's really a story. It's not gonna fly.
Oh, did you hear? Look at him, he's in there.
Open the front door. All right. Our first bat. Bats in the belfry. We got bats on the first
bats
floor.
up there.
Yes.
Bats go up in there.
Travis, man, you jumped, man.
I
Holy
did. Come
cow.
on, I wasn't expecting that. Yes.
All right.
It's not hilarious when they get on you, though.
There he is. Well, he's all caffeinated now. He'll probably end up in Kansas City tonight.
Yeah, he's looking a little rough from all that. All right.
All right, so we have here an incredible original sink that would have been upstairs. The legs on this, I mean, just look at this. It's incredible.
And they're all porcelain?
It's all porcelain, yes. And it was a double sink, which, I mean, this, even to this day, this is a lot of money. But when this would have been original and placed in the house, I'm sure guests that came over or people that installed it were like, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
So right now we're probably in what used to be, and there's like a nice little cupboard here, the original. We're probably in the original place where they would do laundry.
Yes.
And so
It's the clothes chute over there.
Mm-hmm.
this is the clothes
This is the
chute.
clothes chute.
This is the clothes chute. And so we're proposing one of the very first things to do, which wouldn't cost a lot of money, but it probably would take 4 or 5 men.
To lift it. And me not being one of the 4
No.
or 5 men.
We get plumbers for that.
Yeah, big strong men.
And we would take this out of the basement and all this loveliness down here, and we would put it back up in the kitchen upstairs because it would be 2 sinks. You would have more room for commercial
Use.
cooking, use, cleaning. Sorry, the
And
dust
look
in
how
here.
deep they are. I mean, they're.
These are like troughs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never seen, even when you go to the store and you buy the extra deep sinks, they're not this deep. So what's
The
good?
farmhouse sink or whatever.
Oh yeah, this is way better than a farmhouse. And look at this. I mean, if you clean this up, this could be a spectacular piece of art in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
It's like the classic.
Well, they've replumbed those sinks because the original cast iron has rotted out.
Now we're not talking a little rot. We're
gone.
talking it is gone rot. And what happens, and you see this pipe is not connected, which is all bad. Because when you flush the toilet, and you see the big crack, when you flush the toilet, the effluent, which is the nice word for shit, comes down the pipe and runs on the floor. And that makes you very, very sick. So that was obviously going on here. And I know every time we came in here for my friend's holiday party, we never really knew where the bathroom was because nobody ever talked about it.
Or used it.
That was the main point.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you tell the other thing here about all of this? You see these pipes wrapped? This is asbestos.
Uh-huh.
So the other thing about these houses, even though you buy them cheap, asbestos abatement is very... So, just to be clear, there is a Harvard professor who has studied many emotional purchasing decisions. And his article in Inc. magazine is titled, Harvard Professor Says 95% of Purchasing Decisions Are Subconscious. Now, this Harvard professor, his name is Gerald Zaltman, and he's written a book, if you'd like to read the book, How Customers Think, Essential Insights into the Mind of the Market. I think this article to me really touches on many things that I guess I've seen in my career over time. And, you know, people really do they're driven by subconscious urges. Each one of us are. I gotta admit I am. And, you know, I think the older you get, the more you realize that when you sit down and say to yourself, why do I want that? If I get that, how's it gonna make my life better? Or is there a problem associated with it? So if you're going to sit down, take a minute, take a breath and pause versus I want it, I'm going to get it and it's mine. I would recommend that because sometimes we do things on impulse and then later we're like, oh my God, if I would have realized that these Christmas lights were all on batteries, I couldn't just plug it in the wall and let her rip. Now I got to take all these batteries and blah, blah, blah. You know, so sometimes it does help to do a little bit more explanation or inquiry into how something works. So a lot of people want to buy luxury goods nowadays because the feeling of self-worth, acceptance, and status. And I totally get that. And I totally get how real estate does that, how a car does that. You know, dating a certain person might even do that. I mean, you know, it's what it is. And, you know, when you look at perfume, you look at cologne, lingerie, they're targeting your emotions related to love or relationships or your sexual desires. There's nothing wrong with that. That's basic marketing and it's helping people find the products that they want to achieve the desires they want. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you look at things like real estate, you look at the big ticket items, and you just take a look at everything we've seen about this house needing extensive work, and probably, you know, the investment for the house was $260. So if you're looking at doing the house, just bringing it up to code for plumbing, HVAC, electrical, because the house has never had air conditioning, And if you look at, you know, painting and plastering and fixing things just so that it has a normal flow and the bathrooms are working like you would expect a bathroom to work, you're looking at 4 to 5 times what you spent for the price of the house. 4 to 5 times. So what does that mean? That means if I take a $200,000 house and it cost me 5 times that to bring that to code, fix it so it's functional, make sure that it's secure, I'm looking at an overall investment of $1 million. Does that fit a Airbnb model? No, it doesn't. Does that fit a destination model? It could. It very well could. It depends on what you do, what your services are. However, if you are going to be a destination, you have to have places to park. So that would be over and above the $1 million. Why is that? Because you would have to buy more real estate and do removal. You would have to take out some other properties. Is that even possible? It is, but there's only 1 or 2 places that would even be considered, and then the parking would not be adequate. So sometimes you can make a very, you know, well-intended decision emotionally. You might see an epic house in a beautiful area, but you know, there may not be any jobs there, and you may have to live and work in 2 different places. So you have to consider all of these things. I will tell you the house that we've seen today in this episode is gorgeous. I will tell you that the area is challenging and the parking is almost non-existent. So when you have a house that big that you want to do a business in, whether it's Airbnb, whether it's intended to be a destination venue for events, you're going to have a minimum amount of parking that meets these city standards and ordinances. And that simply is not workable in that area. So there are other legal matters that you have to consider. Now, if you're going to use a property like that to live in, and you're going to go and change the neighborhood for the better, regentrify, and have like-minded people, it could be a wealth to the community, no doubt about it. I applaud those efforts, and I'm all about those efforts. I've done that in my community. But it takes a very special person, and it takes a lot of money to do that, and time, and decades, because it didn't get to the state it's in overnight. It took several decades. So I would encourage you that think about your subconscious desires and how they drive your behavior for emotional purchases. It's okay to do that. It's okay to have emotional purchases. I do it myself, but know yourself well enough to know, be your best friend and say, let me take a minute, let me take a beat, and let me think about this. If I do this, if I buy this car, if I buy this house, oh, if I date that person, what would that look like? Would it make my life better? Or would I be better not and maybe skip to the next? Maybe the next one's better. So these are things that are life-changing decisions in many ways. Who you date, what you drive, where you live, oh, and what job you take. So some jobs could be very hazardous to your health, but pay very well. So yeah, I mean, everything's a balancing act. There's really no right or wrong. It's what your lifestyle wants to be, what you desire to have in that lifestyle. And what's it going to be to make you fully self-actualize? So just read some of these articles, get online, look up emotional purchasing, take a look at some YouTubes besides this one, and just get to know yourself well enough so that you can make the best emotional purchasing decisions possible and know what the consequences are before you make the commitment. If you've liked this podcast, tell me how it changes your thought process and decision-making process. And don't forget to tune in for our next podcast on WD Rebel Empowerment.